Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630. WMAL.
It is 7:07. The Morning Majority. Wilson and Neiman are in the house. Ham is taking the day off. It's the two Bryans in charge today. And on the phone right now, U.S. Senator from the great state of South Carolina, Jim DeMint. He's got a new book out called The Great American Awakening, 2 Years That Changed America, Washington, and Me. I mentioned here, just as a side note, the foreword is written by Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, that is a guy who's catching a lot of attention in D.C. right now.
Well, Brian, he should. Marco's, I think, one of the brightest people in Congress today. He's very well-spoken and I think inspiring in a lot of ways. So he's been a real asset to the Senate.
Yeah, I can't remember a junior member of the Senate who has gotten so much attention of late. But look, we need to know, is there going to be a deal or is there not going to be a deal? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I just hope we'll do the right thing right now. I think you'll see the House later today pass a bill that we call Cut, Cap, and Balance, which gives the president the increase in the debt limit, but they do it in a way that I think Standard & Poor's and Moody will recognize as credible long-term deficit reduction. There's some real cuts in it. It caps spending over 10 years. And probably most importantly, it sends a constitutional amendment back to the states to ratify. That it's just giving the states and the American people the chance to decide if we should finally balance our budget up here is, I think, one of the best ideas you could have.
Let me ask you, though. I mean, that's going to pass in the House probably on a party line vote. It's realistically got no chance of passing the Senate, right?
Well, there are over 20 Democrats in the Senate who are on record supporting a balanced budget amendment. Now, they may vote against it just for political purposes, but it's hard to make an argument that, given where we are with our level of debt, that we shouldn't stop spending more than we're bringing in, at least sometime in the next decade. 70% of Americans think we need to balance our budget. I think it's a debate worth having. I'm convinced, completely convinced, that this Congress, regardless of which party's in charge, is going to bankrupt our country unless we're constitutionally required to balance our budget. 49 states have to balance their budgets. We need to do it in Washington.
It seems everybody's dug in. And to me, Senator, there are three camps. There are the Democrats and the president on board with that camp. Then there are, the leadership from the Republican Party who want to raise the debt ceiling no matter what. They don't want to even risk the chance of default. Then there are, for lack of a better term, the hardliners, conservatives such as yourself, who are saying we're not going to do this unless we get some real cuts here. And everybody's dug in, and I don't see where there's negotiation or wiggle room for a deal. Do you see it the same way I do?
There looks to be an impasse, and I think the reason for that is Republicans indicated, at least our leadership did early, that we felt like we had to raise this debt limit, and that we weren't going to put our own plan on the table, which I think was a mistake. We should have put our plan out on the table a couple of months ago, got the American people engaged in it, because what we're asking for is not unreasonable. Most Democrats have supported it, at least rhetorically, that we need to cut. And the problem we have as conservatives is we understand that there will be a day of reckoning, and the longer we put it off, the worse it's going to be for our country. So some folks think we can, we just increase the debt limit, that'll keep kick the can down the road, but it's just going to make it a lot worse if we have another $2.5 trillion.
Are you worried about going past August 2nd without a deal and really doing some permanent damage to the economy?
I don't think we'll do permanent damage. I think it'll be disruptive. The president has tried to create a crisis. Brian, I'm convinced of this because he created this Biden work group, the secret negotiations to burn up the clock. There was never an intention to come up with a deal. If you listen to those who were there, it was just throwing out different ideas here and there. The president never put anything down. He's never sent us a proposal we could vote on, so it's hard to take him seriously. He brought the taxes back right at the end to try to make the Republicans look unreasonable, when 6 months ago he promised the nation that we would keep current tax rates for 2 years. I mean, he signed it into law. So it's hard to figure this guy out, but I'm convinced that if we let this moment go by without leveraging this debt ceiling vote to get some permanent structural changes, then we're going to do permanent damage to our country. The president can make things disruptive, but Social Security and Medicare have assets that they can pay their benefits for several years if need be. We're not going to default. The only thing that could happen is that we have to delay payments to certain government contractors or government programs that we've started. And I don't think we should do that, but I also don't think we should back down and just give the president a blank check to keep spending money.
We're speaking to Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina. Your Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has offered up a debt reduction plan, and you have rejected it out of hand. Why are you in disagreement with your Republican leader?
Well, we weren't elected last November to make it easier to spend money and increase our debt, and I think that's what this proposal does. It has some window dressing related to cutting spending, but the main part of it is just to allow the president to raise the debt limit on his own with only a third of the votes in the House and the Senate. And any other thing, such as another commission, which the last time even the president he ignored his own commission. We've had enough commissions. I think we just need to vote to cut spending and to cap spending and to let the states decide on a balanced budget. We can negotiate what kind of balanced budget. There's a lot of room for negotiations on how much we need to cut. But I really think if we bring the American people in on this, they're going to agree that just making it easier to raise the debt limit doesn't solve the problem. And I'm convinced that we'll be downgraded in our credit rating if we follow the McConnell plan.
I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate especially the balanced budget amendment. I'm wondering, though, can it be done without actually controlling the Senate and the White House? And will Republicans be blamed if it doesn't go through, if there is no deal made, and we do have a downturn, a serious downturn, and not only with the economy, the value of the dollar, interest rates going up? I mean, there is that possibility, regardless of being able to pay Social Security and paying off our interest on the debt.
Well, Brian, it's a good point, but on our current track, the value of the dollar is going down. Our interest rates will go up. We've printed money, the quantitative easing. The president knows that, and he knows his economic policies have made things worse, and he does want to blame the Republicans. But I think Republicans have to worry first about the country here. I think I've heard this too many times over my 6 years in the Senate, 6 years in the House. Is let's just wait till after the next election. We'll have more people, then we can do the right thing.
Yeah, you got to. At some point, you just got to put a stand.
That was $5 trillion, or when we were $5 trillion in debt. Now we're nearly 15. I just think a lot of us have decided, and a number of outside groups, that we have got to take a stand here and get some reasonable cuts in spending and some permanent structural reform, or we're going to sell out our country. So, yeah, there's a lot of risk. I had a journalist tell me last week, DeMint, this is a high-risk strategy, and I said, so was it when they signed the Declaration of Independence.
There you go.
I think it's serious, and so that's the difference in the debate here. I think some people think, well, it's not that serious, but when people like Alan Greenspan say we're right up against our borrowing limit, we might wake up tomorrow and can't borrow any more money, and we're a country right now that has to borrow money to even pay our regular bills, and that's not a safe place to be.
I have just one more quick question, and we got to go because we're a little over here, but do you think we can get a deal without first having the deadline pass?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think so. And if the president really thought it was a drop-dead date, he would be in more of a panic than he is.
All right.
He's holding the strings. Geithner knows, what they can pay and what they don't and when they'll do it. But there's no question that he's already frightening seniors, talking about not paying our troops. All of these things he can do. But he doesn't have to.
All right, Senator, we're all out of time. The book is called The Great American Awakening, 2 Years That Changed America, Washington, D.C. U.S. Senator from the state of South Carolina, Jim DeMint, thanks for joining us here on The Morning.